This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. Welcome in, everybody, to our Halloween episode. Yes, it's spooky season here on For the Fans, FTFnext.com, YouTube, or wherever it is you get your podcast. My name's Jeff Brault. Dr. Keith Strella, Director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. And that's literally all that we have prepared about Halloween for this episode. Keith, how badly did I scare you? Did I put a fright into you by theming this as our Halloween episode when you had no idea that was about to happen?
Well, because I was like, oh, was I supposed to bring a costume? Because I could do that. I always have, a little known fact, I always have available from the White Shadow, the Goldberg outfit. From the TV show White Shadow from Carver High, I always have Goldberg. So that's always available.
I was going to ask you as our, light banter question at the top of the show, have you ever had a good Halloween costume? But apparently the answer is no.
No, that's not true. I actually have had so many good. I mean, in many ways, I'm kind of like the king of Halloween. I was always known as like the king of Halloween.
Yeah. Who? Give us some names of people that have referred to you as the king of Halloween.
No one you would know. And so my go-to costume really in college and for many years was the Flash. The Flash was always my go-to costume.
So I was still right. You haven't had a good Halloween costume.
That was my go. Oh, yes, I have a great costume.
Yeah, a superhero. That's so original. No one's ever gone as a superhero for Halloween.
No, I went as a superhero long before the Marvel universe kind of hit its onset. So I was,
because it's not like Spider-Man was created in the 1950s.
But I made my suit. I got a red ski mask. I'd get the red spandex, everything. And I get cardboard. I cut it. I made my suit. So I was the Flash. One year, by the way, there was a slightly intoxicated incident, perhaps on College Ave in Cornell, where a bunch of us got loose from a Halloween party. And we decided it was a lot of track team members. And whenever you have like cross-country track team members at a big Halloween party, there's always someone who says, let's have a race. It doesn't matter at what point, it just happens, right?
Sure.
So let's have a race. And so on Halloween night or whatever that weekend party night was, several people were dressed up as the members of the Village People. And I was dressed as the Flash, and that constituted the majority of the race. And at some point I just heard people in bars in College Ave be like, why is the Flash chasing the construction worker and the guy, the soldier in the Navy? So it was an odd spectacle where the Flash was chasing all of these service people.
So now you were the Flash whose superpower is being fast, and you were losing the race to a construction worker?
Or police officer, someone in the Navy. I can't remember. I don't remember. I don't even know if construction worker was part of the. I don't believe.
Of course, a construction worker was part of the Village People. He had the cutoff jean shorts on. Act like you don't know who's in the Village People.
One of my superpowers was not holding my alcohol well. Like that wasn't something. So you would think the Flash would have metabolized more quickly. Didn't seem to work.
You do bring up another interesting discussion question. Which sports athletes are the weirdest? Because I have my answer. I think track/cross country is high on the list, but they're not my number one.
We're way up there. I mean, way up there. And there have been plenty of books written about that subculture. And there's a lot of, you can imagine the mindset of someone that wants to put themselves through this. It's a little nutty. Swimmers are way up there.
That's my one. Swimming is my number one.
Swimmers are way up there because it's all of that goes into running. Take away the scenery and add longer hours and worse conditions. There's nothing good about the track and field and the running, and everything bad and way more. They're weird. They're just nutty people.
And look, I'm going to tell you the only thing that separates them, in my opinion, right? Because I agree with you. I think that the mindset to be either a high-level track athlete or a high-level swimming athlete is very much the same. You have to like a certain amount of pain and punishment. But what vaults swimmers over track athletes to be in the ranking of weirdest is the fact that that sport comes with team sanctioned shaving parties. And that to me is where the line is drawn, where swimmers take the top spot and track comes in second, a sport in which you are allowed to keep, I'd say, 80 to 90% of your natural body hair.
I will say, that's a great question. Like, which sport is the weirdest? Like, which has the weirdest athletes? Because there's a lot that you can make arguments for. I happen to think swimming is really high up there at the top, and cross country not that far behind, because they also both have the element of, even if you get really good, no one cares. Like, it's not like you're doing it for a lot of glory. You can be the 10th best swimmer in your event in the country, and you can walk anywhere and never be noticed. Like, there is nothing about being good at that sport that gets you any attention. If you're the 10th best wide receiver in college, I mean, you never buy a drink
multi-millionaire. Again.
Yeah. Like, you walk into a bar in your college and everyone's like, Frank's here. You are the 10th best swimmer. And there's nothing. Everyone's like, why does it smell like chlorine in this room? That's it. So it's swimmers are up there. I mean, crew's a little weird. The other thing with swimming, though, is crew you can pick up a little bit later in life just because of the nature of the sport.
True.
Swimming, you have to start at like 5 to be good at it. So you've dedicated your entire life to that moment of anonymity. Like, it's really weird.
Yep. And that's another great point, because that brings in a failure of parenting, right? If your 5-year-old is in swimming, you've done something wrong as a parent, because I ardently believe, and I will preface it by saying that I don't have kids, but I will ardently believe that the sport that you put your kid in should be one that you're willing to sit through and watch. And I could imagine nothing worse than spending my Saturday sitting inside the natatorium waiting for little Johnny to swim the 100, which happens to be the last event of a 6-hour day, and having to watch 5.5 hours of youth swimming events that my kid's not in prior to that, so I can be there to support the team. Like, it's one of the worst spectator sports on earth. It has to be. It might be number one. I mean, everybody's underwater. You can't tell who's who when they're actually swimming. So to put yourself through that as a parent, if your kid got in swimming at the age of 5, when you totally control what it is your kid does, you messed up in life, and now you have to reap what you've sown.
You're not wrong, because swimming also brings with it the appeal of year-round practices at 5 a.m. So, I mean, you have done something wrong to yourself. You know what's surprisingly not that far behind? Hockey. Hockey's not far. Not in terms of bad parenting decision. It's early morning practices. Whenever you go watch, it's freezing. All right. And the smell of the pads is like no one's business.
I agree with everything you've just said, but at least in hockey, the payoff is if they get good enough, the games are interesting to watch. I'm convinced, and I've never been to a high level swim meet, but I'm convinced you could stick me in the Olympics and I'd be like, all right, like, this is fine. Like, they're just moving faster than the people that are worse at this. Like,
that's stupid.
But once they dive into the water, you don't know which one Michael Phelps is. Like, they're all the same.
He's lane 5.
All the same under the water.
He's lame. He's the guy.
He's just the top of his cap. That's all he is. They're all the same.
I love watching high level swim meets, but I will tell you, that's one of those sports where, to me, watching the great, like the Olympic caliber, I used to go watch like SEC championship meets or those high caliber meets at Florida. I really enjoyed them. Watching a bad swim meet is awful. But
let me put it to you this way. You can claim that you enjoyed watching high-level swimming, right? Name some live sporting events you've seen that high-level swimming was better than, of a comparable level. I'm not saying, like T-ball versus Olympic swimming, but name a sport that's comparable that you would consider to be a worse live viewing experience.
Oh, baseball. I think baseball's incredibly boring.
That's ridiculous. But that's a personal preference thing then, because that's insane. I think that sitting and watching a baseball game is worse than watching a swim meet.
The worst part about watching a swim meet is when you realize you're just watching heats. Like, you're like, oh, he won. You're like, oh no, that was.
And here's something that bothers me about swimming.
The worst part is when you get all excited and then you realize that was the consolation final. Like, that was to come in ninth.
Something that I dislike about swimming, I don't like the fact that when you're doing a relay, The team that you put out there for qualifying doesn't have to be the team you put out there for the final. That's dumb. Like, imagine if the Kansas City Chiefs are playing in the AFC Championship game, and apologies to the Chiefs who will not be playing in the AFC Championship game this year. But imagine that they're in the AFC Championship game and they run out
different quarterback,
some B team, and then the next week they're like, "Oh, here's our real team." I know they can, but they don't. You know why they don't? Because it's not good enough. The fact that you can put out a worse team in the qualifying heat,
no, you're wrong.
And then be like, all right, here's our good team. It's going to race for the championship.
If they know they can win and they can rest their starting quarterback in the last couple games of the year, they do that. That's actually not true. Those are regular season games. Those are regular season games. Do what you want when it's for time or whatever. But that's the qualifying heat to get into the championship. That's a playoff game. But they know they're going to get there. I mean, now
there shouldn't be a qualifying heat. If you don't have enough teams that can make it to the championship heat with their best swimmers, then we don't need qualifying.
There might be a false start. You don't know that. You've watched so little swimming in your life.
Yeah, correct. But I've already am certain that I have this take correct. I am certain of it.
Tweet at us at SportishPod. Tell us what you think about medium caliber swimming and preliminary heats. I'll watch. I mean, I actually watch swimming on television. Like, I watch it on television.
When it's not the Olympics?
Yeah.
Why? You were 17 minutes late to record this show because you're so busy, but you have time to watch swimming on television?
It wasn't 17 minutes. I was 7 minutes. And that was after you pushed by a half an hour. So once you give me the berth, I'm a very busy human being. I've got a lot of things to do. So I fill the void.
You had nothing to do. You didn't go to work today because it was drizzling outside.
I worked. This was the office. I worked
So you shouldn't have been late.
More.
You were sitting there already.
I filled the void. I actually purposely, on the rare occasion, by the way, you know who I hate right now more than anyone? Everyone that gets to work from home. I actually viscerally dislike them at this point because some of us get our, fat behinds up and we slog up to the office and do real work. And then the rest of the people are like sitting at home. I hope my wife doesn't hear this because she, but regardless, they're just like, oh, isn't it so great that we can all work from home now? No, it's not great because we don't all get to work from home now. And some of us actually have to go to work. And so I'm growing to dislike that subculture a lot.
As someone that has the flexibility to work wherever I choose, I actually find that working at home all day, every day is not a good solution. That's a lot of time inside your four walls. Like, I very much enjoy having the option to go somewhere else to work. I think a lot of people that are forced to work from home, 24/7, 365, I don't think they necessarily enjoy that as much as you might think that they do because you don't ever get the chance to do it. Now, I will say it is nice we're on, a Friday where maybe you don't have that much going on, where you can be like, I'm going to work from home today. I think we all enjoy that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you do. And I don't have that opportunity, which I'm fine. I mean, that's the job. That's the career path I have chosen. Right. So you got to be there. You're running a school. Someone's got to run the school. You got to open the doors and make the things happen. But it does bother me. All these people are like, oh, we'll work from home. And what bothers me even more, if we're going to get this off my chest, boy, this show has taken a sordid turn early on. We've disparaged one of the world's most popular sports after bowling. We've disparaged that. And then B, now we are literally kind of just dumping on what I imagine to be over half of America's workforce. But what I really don't like are the people that now say, well, I don't want to go into the office. It doesn't feel safe. That to me.
Yeah, they're just liars. They're liars. They're liars because they just are. Like, this is America. And as we've said on Sportish for months now, the pandemic is over. The pandemic is over. It's over. We called it. We were ahead of the CDC. We were ahead of all the major news networks. We were ahead of most of the world's scientists and almost all people that have rational thinking capabilities in saying that the pandemic is over, and the actions of the populace have proven us correct. So those people are just liars. They're malcontents and they're liars, and we have no reason to care about what they think.
It's very true. It's very true. The medical community was late was late to the trigger on this, and they should be ashamed. Sportish called the election early, and it was time to get on board. We knew Florida was going to Bush. We knew Florida was going on to Bush. You can wait and count the Chads all you'd like. We knew the pandemic was coming to a fateful conclusion one way or another. I don't care about the caseload. The pandemic is over. You can count all you like. Keep the numbers coming. We enjoy the pie graphs, but in the end of the day, it's over. It's over, right? The Astros are going to the World Series. This thing, the fat lady has sung. It's over. We called it a long time ago. So time to get to work. But I do not appreciate the people that are like, just not safe. It's just not safe anymore. You're at the supermarket.
But it's not just that they're at the supermarket, because they were at the supermarket in March 2020 when this thing was raging, because people got to eat. But they're also at the football stadium. And, these people are not at this point, living the shut-ins life.
Yeah, there are some. Some.
Probably, but they were probably living the shut-ins life before, too.
Yeah, just an excuse now. So at any rate,
let's get to our sports show, shall we?
Let's do this.
You segued us very nicely into our first topic by saying that the Astros are back in the World Series. And that doesn't mean that we're going to talk about baseball, because we're not. You've already disparaged that sport enough for one day. But because the Astros are back in the Major League Baseball Championship, the World Series, we get to talk about the greatest marketing campaign in the history of marketing. It's the second time that we've ever talked about this on Sportish. We're going to do it every time that we can. Mattress Mac is back in the news. Mattress Mac, from Gallery Furniture in your neck of the woods down in Houston, has wagered $3.5 million on the Houston Astros at four different sports books. He's got almost $3.5 million at each one out there on the Astros.
Are you kidding?
No.
He's got $14 million on the line.
On the line that the Astros are going to win the World Series, because, Keith, this is a Houstonite, but the rest of our audience, those 7 people might not know this, because I'm guessing they don't live in Houston. Probability says that's likely not where they are. Those people may not know that Mattress Mac uses these bets to cover the losses that he would incur if customers at his Gallery Furniture chain are able to take advantage of what I say is the most ingenious marketing campaign in America. And that is, they go and they buy some furniture. If the Astros win, they get it all for free. Mm-hmm. So now he's creating happy customers. He's getting publicity from the millions upon millions of dollars in gambling that he's doing. He's creating regenerating interest, right? If the Astros go down 3-1, the big story is not, are the Braves going to win the World Series? It's, is Mattress Mac going to lose $14 million? That's why people are tuning in to Game 5. And then whether he wins or loses, he wins or loses, depending on your perspective.
I mean, it's kind of a flat line if we were to actually do the math. He's kind of, it's no better, no worse, but he has created a very happy community, correct?
He breaks even either way with millions upon millions of dollars in free advertising.
I'm surprised Vegas lets him keep doing this. But I guess it's no, they're just taking money. Now, of course, for those of you that don't know Mattress Mac, he's famous for a few reasons. One, he awarded me a moped at my senior prom. We all know this story because we followed the show for years. I, of course, won a moped with a friend of mine at my senior prom. We finished second in the raffle after the exchange student who won a free car, also awarded by Mattress Mac.
Wow. I was going to say, I'm like, if moped is the second prize, what's number one? That's a big step down. Yeah.
It was a big step down, but it was worth it to realize when they read the winner, it was the one person that lived in a foreign country that won the car. Like, it just made it that much more exciting because there was no way he could actually keep the car. So that's one of the reasons Mattress Mac is famous. The other,
I'm sorry. Excuse me. You think there's no way to get a car across an ocean? How do you think most cars get here?
No, that's not true. They're built in Toyota plants in like Tennessee or something like that, Nebraska. So that's A. B, some of you probably know, and Mattress Mac, of course, 6006 I-45 between Tidwell and Parker. Gallery Furniture really will save you money. That's, of course, his tagline. Do you want me to do Thunderbird Auto Parts? If your transmission's got you down and your motor falls apart, come to Thunderbolt Auto Parts. You don't need a brand new car. We still believe in value, and we pass it on to you. The something. We bring the yeehaw back to your motors and transmission. That was the other big jingle. But of course, Mattress Mac, 6006 I-45 between Tidwell and Parker. Gallery Furniture really will save you money. those of you who know the Paul Bosch wrestling era in Houston, that's where he got his start, Mattress Mac, advertising on wrestling shows. So he's also famous for taking in all of the hurricane victims who had no place to sleep when Joel Osteen decided he didn't want them. So he did that. And Joel Osteen, of course, from the church that took over the Houston Summit, the basketball arena, and turned that into a church. That's the other thing. The third thing you might know Mattress Mac from is he had a significant role in one episode of one of the greatest shows ever to air on television, the Jamie Kennedy Experiment, where Jamie Kennedy and his friend, what is it, Saul? I forget his name. They wanted to be hip hop artists, and that's of course when they teamed up with Bob Saget to do their rap. Dope Ass Rapper, I believe is what it was. And they did that. And I could say that on For the Fans, correct?
Well, earlier in the episode, you didn't say ass. And so you danced around it by saying like rear end or something. And then now you've just decided to willy-nilly throw it out there. So we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out if you can or can't. We're going to get an answer to this question. One of the two is either going to be bleeped or not bleeped. We'll see. I really hope, and I'm looking at you, audience of one, that the one you bleep is when Keith dances around saying ass and says like patoot or whatever stupid word he used instead.
I said my rear end. So regardless, so what they decided to do, Jamie Kennedy, they went down to Houston because there was a big hip hop kind of show going on. And they decided one of the things they needed to do to get famous was to do some kind of commercial campaign. So they got grills and did a hip hop commercial for Mattress Mac. It's actually really funny. After you watch this show, you should go watch that. So we love Mattress Mac. He is a national hero. He's a treasure. None of us have ever figured out how he made that much money selling discount furniture. There are a lot of theories. Most of them are nefarious, but I mean, honestly, he's one of those guys. I don't even care. He's done no one's more charitable. Like no one's more charitable than this guy.
And I mean, you talk about the nefarious means by which he may have accumulated his fortune, allegedly. It seems like he seems like a guy compensated for something, right? By how nice he is and how charitable he is, right? Like, doesn't it just seem a little disingenuous? You're a Houstonian.
No, I mean, we all were like, boy, he's selling like particle board furniture. That's not true because his commercials are solid wood, knock on wood. Like, so it's not particle board. It's like legitimate solid pine and oak and like the treasures of the universe, right? So it's the real stuff. Although to be fair, it should be bamboo because that's far more environmentally, it was a different time. We didn't know back then. So we just cut down the oak trees and we make bedposts. We didn't care. And so I got to tell you, like, it didn't make a lot of sense when it's like, buy it today, sleep on it tonight. No back orders. Like you'd be like, well, that's expensive. That's expensive to pull off, but he does it. And so I think in a volume business, he just made it work. Like, I mean, would you think that someone that owns supermarkets would get that rich? No, because the profit margins are so slim, but you sell enough fruit and enough Cheerios, eventually you make a lot of money. He's a volume business guy. I just think we got to give him his due. And when other stores were kind of going the boutique route, Rouge Boubois, and it would cost you thousands to get
what's the name of the store?
Rouge Boubois. It's a high-end furniture store.
Did you just have a mini stroke there for a second? It's called what?
Rouge Boubois. It sounds French, so it's more expensive.
I'm only confident that I could get 3 letters right if I tried to spell that.
By the way, and then we'll get back to this great promotion. I watched the movie. Have you watched the movie Bad Words with Jason Bateman?
It sounds like a movie I've watched, but you have to give me a little bit more. He
was a 40-year-old who decided to enter the spelling bee. I don't want to.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yes, I have seen that. Yes.
I'm on a kick now because we're moving into the indoor kind of part of the year where I'm just kind of at odd times of the day, like in the evening or early in the morning, like just watching because I'm over news at this point. Like at this point, I think the only place I want to get my news is Sportish. So I'm just, it's too heavy. I can't take it. The news, I'll watch. I'll watch the circus. because I find that to be the best show, second best show on television after Us. But I find myself watching just random movies. I watch Bad Words, and that's a guy who could spell. Speaking of guys, he'd get Rouge Boubois. On the Mattress Mac, this is a rambling. This is going nowhere fast. It's such a great idea. You almost wonder why more people don't try it. Like, and maybe because in the end of the day, you are technically losing a little business, but I think this is just the way he thinks. He's also a guy that sponsored a bowl game. I mean, a Houston,
the Gallery Furniture Bowl.
Yeah, it's a great name for it too. So, what's a worse bowl game name than that? The Beef O'Brady Bowl.
That's the worst one. Yeah, that's definitely the worst one. The GMAC Bowl is up there. That's a bad one. But the Beef O'Brady's Bowl was the worst one. The O'Reilly's Auto Parts Bowl, that was pretty bad. Like, the only ones that make sense are the ones where the name of the bowl game kind of ties into the brand, like the Tropicana Orange Bowl. All right, we get it. The Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. Hey, that's a good one. These other ones are just pretty stupid. The Belk Bowl. Nobody even knows what Belk is unless you live in
I know
North
what Belk
Carolina.
is.
Yeah, because you lived in the South.
Yeah, but I know what it is. You'd shop at Belk. You get stuff. You get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's a department store.
It's an upscale Kohl's if you're.
Yeah, it's a department store.
But it's a little higher end.
People know what a department store is. You don't need, especially our audience, the 5 people that are still watching. Notice how it went from 7 to 5 because that's how many people we naturally lose by attrition as the show goes on. They're smart people. Some might say the smartest people. They're in a very exclusive club, and that is the exclusive club that can figure out not only how to turn on For the Fans, but how to turn it on the right time to watch this show and not pickleball. So great job by those people. You're some of the finest among us. We'd like to get you working on some of our really big problems, like how to have a proper tax system in this country and, I don't know, a way to colonize Mars.
They're basically mind readers. I mean, because they're somehow getting in the head of the programmer For the Fans. All right, so look, good for Mattress Mac. I'm excited for the people of Houston. When I wear my Astros hat, I mean, wearing an Astros hat right now is about the most villainous. Like, honestly, not to get political here, I could wear a MAGA hat and get less dirty looks around here. Like, it's people look at you like, has a team become more vilified from like a team that really didn't have any kind of public? I mean, in some cases, I think people almost rooted for them because they never won. Has a team gone from there to like the most hated team in America more quickly than the Astros?
Probably not, because they did the one thing that you truly can't do, and that is cheat and admit to cheating and essentially be caught red-handed. Like that's the one thing you can't do. If there's even a sliver of doubt that you cheated, right? Like the Tom Brady deflated ball scandal or any of the Patriots scandals, right? If there's just even a tiny little sliver of doubt, people will be like, well, but maybe. There's always that little bit of, but even Astros fans have to just be like, yeah, get over it. Like, we cheated, but get over it. And that's the one thing you can't do in sports. You can do literally almost anything else and be forgiven in some way by some of the people, except get caught red-handed cheating.
Yeah, I mean, basically, America found the Astros burner phone, and it's all over. They saw the text exchange, and it was hot and heavy.
If Mattress Mac's bets are the best storyline about the World Series, and they are, perhaps the second best is that the Braves manager, Brian Snitker, is coaching against his son, Troy, who is the Astros co-hitting coach. So, Keith Strudler, you have children. If you were competing against your child for something that your child has wanted their entire life, right? Something that they have come out of the womb wanting, and you were directly standing in the way of their ability to achieve that. Would you take pleasure in that, or would that reduce the amount of pleasure that you would take in winning a World Series or accomplishing something great? It's also a dream for you. If for you to achieve your dream, you have to trash the dream of your child, how would that make you feel?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm much older than my kids, so they're gonna have other opportunities to fulfill their dream. Right?
Unless they don't. I mean, how many times do you get to coach in the World Series?
This is like in Arrested Development. I feel like this is the Jason Bateman episode where he and his son, the great Michael Cera, are both dating the same woman. You figure
that's one way to look at it, I suppose.
You figure Jason Bateman may not have a lot more opportunities, so you kind of I mean, the whole thing was weird, obviously. It was all weird. But it's Arrested Development. That show was built on the premise of weird. So, would it make me feel worse? I mean, I don't feel bad when I beat my kids in sports or anything. I don't feel like bad about that. So if I play tennis or something like that, I feel pretty good about it. I don't know.
This is you're taking from them their lifelong dream.
Right.
That you theoretically helped foster
their
desire for.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be there if it weren't for me in the first place. Like I literally brought them into this world.
And so now you're standing in the way of their lifelong dream. For them to achieve their dream, they have to dash yours and vice versa.
This is like Kylo Ren. He had to kill his father. I just don't know if I have the strength to do it. Is that what he said? He said something like that. I sounded a lot more like Spaceballs. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine is.
That's the line that everybody goes to. So
let's see how you handle it.
So I would think you would take perverse pleasure in dashing your child's dream.
I'm not a horrible human being.
Well, I mean, tweet at us and let us know in the comments.
We should do a poll, just a flat out simple for the fans. If you're watching, and I don't know if you are, every now and then the social team puts out a poll. I think the poll question is Keith Strudler a horrible human being? Very simple. Yes or no. Very simple. No, I don't think I'd feel better about, I mean, I'm not a monster, but that's the question. Is Keith Strudler a monster?
He's the Flash.
Flash is a great superhero, limited in his powers, but I was always surprised at how much you could accomplish with speed. You could stop the world. You basically could stop the world.
Because you'd run faster than the earth spins?
Yeah, and like you'd be running in the speed of light, and so everything is like stops. Like you're doing things.
What benefit is there to running that fast? Like you can't.
If you wanted to get all your work, if you wanted to get everything done and change a few things and then come back and then it's all set, you can do that while no one notices. You could literally do everything.
Do things while you're going the speed of light. You can't crochet a hat while running the speed of light. It doesn't accelerate time. It just means you're going faster.
Right. So you get it all done. And it's something like where they kind of, there's a thing. You have to watch the show. It's just the way it works.
That's a stupid power. That's stupid. It's another reason why it's a terrible Halloween costume. That's a stupid power.
I've also been Charlie Brown a lot.
Better costume.
Yeah.
Better costume.
It's a good costume. I used to make my kids be Charlie Brown for like the first, because when they were like, didn't have a lot of hair, they looked like a big fat head. They looked great. So and they didn't know what it was. They didn't know after, like, by the time they were 4, they're like, why do I have to be Charlie Brown again? No one likes Charlie Brown. I want to be a Power Ranger. I'm like, you're Charlie Brown.
A very popular Halloween costume in the Tampa Bay area this year might be that of Bad Negotiator. Yes, I'm talking about you, Byron Kennedy,
that was
the man who gave back. First of all, that was one of the best transitions that we've ever had. So what you need to do right now is respect greatness. At Sportish Pod, poll number 2, is any transition better than the one that Jeff just came up with to get you from dumb Halloween costumes into guy who gave back Tom Brady's touchdown pass ball? That was a stroke of genius, a masterclass.
That's just like words. You're just putting words together. That doesn't make it an effective transition. Those were just words that went together.
Master class. Ring the bell. School is in session. Anyway, this guy Byron Kennedy.
It would be like, oh yeah, like someone's like, oh, what's for dinner tonight? You'd be like, you know what else we like to have for dinner? Cars. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, speaking of dinner,
it's absolutely nothing like that. It's absolutely nothing like that at all. If you go back and listen to it, because the stupid thing that you just said doesn't tie together at all. What I did was take the dumb thing you were talking about, Halloween costumes, and transition that into the next story that we're going to talk about. So that would have been fine. That would have been fine, except it wouldn't have fit with the theme of bad Halloween costumes.
But no one's going to dress like that's fine.
That's not the point. That's not the point. That's also part of why it's a good transition, because it would be a bad Halloween costume, which ties into what we were just talking about.
Continue.
I almost don't want to now. I don't feel like you deserve the rest of my genius.
Do we have 14 extra minutes of commercials lined up? Can we get the robots back, please?
This guy, Byron Kennedy, was given Tom Brady's 600 touchdown ball because Mike Evans saw that he was wearing a Mike Evans jersey and handed it to him. He didn't recognize that it was a historic touchdown ball. Yeah. So now he's in possession of this object that, according to Ken Golden from Golden Auctions, the sports memorabilia auction house, is worth $500,000. Someone from the team walks over to him and goes, Tom would like that ball back. And what he said was, okay, and gave it back. He gave back a ball that was worth $500,000. In return, he received some vague promises. And those vague promises turned out to be some Tom Brady signed jerseys and a signed helmet, Mike Evans cleats from the game, $1,000 shopping spree to the Bucs team store, which I believe gets you one T-shirt and one sweatshirt, season tickets for 2 years. And then Tom Brady later, through one of his endorsement partners, is getting him a Bitcoin, a single Bitcoin, which as of yesterday was worth a little bit over $65,000. So all in all, not a terrible package for what he ended up receiving. However, he gave the ball back and gave away all his leverage. And Tom Brady said that on the Manning cast during Monday Night Football the other night. Yeah. He gave away all his leverage. He could have got nothing. They could have just walked away from this guy, gave him nothing. Nice that he got something. What he got's actually a pretty good deal. But Keith Strudler, if you received a $500,000 ball, and now he didn't necessarily know that it would be worth that at the time, but if you're in possession of something that someone else says they want, don't give it back. They want it for a reason.
No, well, that's not fair. So a few things here. This is kind of like when you're in like Let's Make a Deal, right? And there's, one of the greatest TV game shows of all time, obviously. All right. And so, I mean, it's no pressure luck, but it's a good show. And so is that Wayne Brady's show now?
It is.
Yeah. All right. There you go. So, I mean, that's for all of you who work from home. You watch, sure you watch that all the time. So he's, it's my dig back at that whole subculture.
Yeah. We got it. Yeah. Yeah. We've all been part of the show for the first 36 minutes. We know.
So, you get to pick all these things and you're like, you got a nice trip plan, like trip for 3 to Oahu, right? And it's like six nights and 7 days at the hot springs, Oahu, where you'll feast on lobster tails and you'll go parasailing and you'll be in a deluxe accommodations because everyone's in deluxe accommodations, right? Right. And you
3, by the way, is a weird number of people to bring on the trip.
I think that was Freudian. That's the trip I wanted to plan.
Was with 3 people.
This could go down a very dark hole very quickly. So I've got my number 2, but who's the third? All right. So you've decided to take the trip. Well, the trip for 3, all of a sudden my analogy doesn't work because it's starting to sound better and better. Maybe that was the best prize, but your trip is a good prize. And then you got 2 other doors, right? And one of them is a camel. It's always like, do they still do that? Where it's like a camel.
Yeah, there's always the joke. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a very interesting game to watch if every prize was good.
So there's that. Or it's like, or you can have all the cash in the box and it's like $12, right? And so, but then you realize, so you just want to stick with the trip because you're like, I'm going to have fun on this trip in Oahu, right? I've never been to that resort. I've never been parasailing. It's going to be great. I'm going to climb up the volcanoes, right? But then after it's done, they're like, well, let's see what's behind door number 3. And it's like a new Corvette. And you're like, oh, I could have had a Corvette. Now, do you feel bad that you have the trip to Oahu? Maybe you do, but I don't know. So I don't think we should always, and I know what you're saying. You had the Corvette in your hand. You were literally holding the Corvette and you gave it away. Couple things. First of all, let's not forget where the blame lies. Mike Evans, what is your problem? You are the guy. Like you caused this whole thing. If anyone should be giving out Bitcoin, it's that guy, right? He gave the football, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, Mike gave away the football. What are we going to do now? So that's A. B, if someone came up to you and was like, excuse me, Mr. Brady would like his football back, right? Are you going to, like it's a scene from The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Mr. Brady is about to make you an offer that you cannot say no to. So are you going to...
How did you just botch? First of all, that is the worst Italian accent anyone's ever attempted. How did you just botch the most iconic movie quote in history?
Well, no,
he's going to make you an offer you cannot refuse. He's going to make you an offer you can't say no to. That would literally make The Godfather an average movie. Its IMDb rating would go down 1.5 if the line was he's going to make you an offer you can't say no to.
I did that way on purpose because I was doing my own version of it. Everyone knows you can't refuse, right? Everyone knows that. That's like, go ahead and make my day, right? We all know that. We all know that one. So I would be like, go ahead and make me not happy. That would be the opposite. Go ahead and make me really happy. Go ahead and make this a day I circle on my calendar every year and celebrate with a cake.
What's impressive about what just happened is in a show that's really made all of its hay off creepy moments, that was the creepiest. We have found a way to reset the bar for a show that only gets people interested in it because it makes you oddly uncomfortable and you can't figure out why. You just slapped him in the face with the glove of uncomfortability. Like now everybody knows we just tore down the third wall of why does my stomach feel odd when I watch this show? And we're just like, oh, now I get it. That's exactly why.
Go ahead. I can't do it anymore.
Good. So somebody comes up to me.
So someone comes up to you and he's like, Mr. Brady would like that ball. And you're sitting there. Are you really? You have to be some kind of jerk to be like, no.
So, I used to.
You don't even know. You don't even know.
I used to agree with that. I used to agree with that when I was younger. I was like, it's not your ball. You should give it back. And then what happened? The sports memorabilia market exploded. And at this point, it's not, we're not talking about, whatever, it's $50,000 or, it's a lot of money, but it's not life-changing money. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about sums of money that are not feasible for any regular person to obtain at one time. And that will dramatically change the way that your life is lived. So, the market has gone on in such a way that, quite frankly, if you believe you have something of great value, and in interviews, Byron Kennedy has said that, yeah, he had a pretty good idea that what he was giving away was something valuable. It's not like somebody told him afterwards. They're like, hey, do you know what that was? And he was like, no, tell me. And he was like, oh, no, I have erred.
But would you have known? I'll be honest. I would not have known. Now, did he know it was the 600th touchdown? Were they announcing congratulations, Tom Brady? That's when Mike Evans is like, oh, I
believe he did know. I believe he did know based on what he has said in interviews.
So I would not, because I don't know that 600 is that such a seminal number? I mean, is that
well, yeah. Do you know how many other 600 touchdown pass balls there are in the history of the world?
I'm going to guess 0.
That's the correct number. So is it impressive? Yeah, probably.
I don't know that I would have known because I'm not a member. I mean, I don't know what this stuff is behind me. I'm sure something's worth something, but who knows? It's just money anyway. And so I really don't like, I like what I like. Same way I am with art. Like I like what I like. Right. And so I don't know that I would have known. I might have known that's, hey, I'm going to get some dollars for this. I would never have guessed $500,000. That seems really exorbitant. Although I just read that a pair of Jordans, game-worn Jordans earlier, wasn't that like in the millions, I thought? Right? I mean, it was,
I think it was $1.4 million.
Yeah.
If memory,
so,
memory serves.
Who knows? Right. So, I mean, I guess anything's possible.
That was the end of your thought. So do you? So you think he made a good deal then? You think?
I don't think he made a good deal. I don't think he made a good deal. And by the way, here's the good news about Bitcoin. Tomorrow it might be worth $8 million or nothing.
Or nothing.
And by the way, what I've also learned about Bitcoin is you can lose it if you forget the password.
Correct. Well, this is one of my favorite stories because this is something that I feel like would happen to you if you invested in cryptocurrency. There's a guy who apparently had like 250 Bitcoin and a hard drive that he threw away. And he's now been like for years, like combing through a dump, trying to find his old hard drive. Like he's been at this every day for an inordinate amount of time, looking for this hard drive that at the time when he threw it away was worth like, $100 or whatever. He's like, oh shoot, wish I didn't do that. And now is worth like tens of millions of dollars.
He didn't put it in like a Google Drive or anything like it. It was just
how Sisyphus, like that is Sisyphus for the modern age. Is digging through a heap of garbage every day to try to find your digital millions.
Because there's really nothing you could do. Like you can't go to a normal job and be like, I'm earning $25 an hour, because in your head, there's no way that your time isn't better spent going through like vomitous garbage, trying to make tens of millions. Like sadly, there is no better way for him to use his work time. It's really an unfortunate destiny. What else do we got? We got very little time.
That's it. That's all we got. So you're saying that if you received a valuable object, right?
I'd want an experience. So what I'm not hearing is we're going to be friends now. Like that's the thing, right? I mean, you know how I roll. Like I want you can have this back, but we're going to be golfing every Sunday in the off season. Like that's work. Like that private jet you have, I'm going to be flying on it with you when we go to Aspen.
This is a very interesting question. If you were Tom Brady, someone who has, essentially unlimited money.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a dollar amount where you're just like, well, that's dumb. Like I'm not going to give you $100 million or whatever. But if you were to take something that has, no tangible value, like a round of golf, what is the line that if you're Tom Brady, you go, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Wait, he has to pay you.
Because imagine if you asked for an experience, right?
Yeah.
And you go, I want to play golf with you. He's like, all right, sure. Most people play golf with random strangers all the time, whatever. What if you were like, you know what I want for this ball? I want to have Thanksgiving with your family. Like what's the line of things that doesn't cost any tangible money where Tom Brady would go, no, we're not doing that.
I think it's got to be when you're kind of getting close, when he drips into the rest of his life. Like it's one thing for him to be there when he's like, we're going to be double dating for the next 5 years. I think he's like, I'm not dragging anyone else into this. So it's got to be something like that.
All right. That's all the time we have for this episode of Sportish. Tweet at us with what you think Tom Brady would not accept for that ball. And maybe we'll talk about it next week.
Maybe it couples in the whirlpool or something like that. I don't know.
He's Keith. I'm Jeff. See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.